The day my wife Clara told me she wanted a divorce. She didn't cry, she just handed me a folder. It was thick, meticulously organized with tabs for assets, debts, and a proposed settlement. She had been planning this for months, maybe even years, while I was busy planning our future. We'd been married for 15 years. I thought we were happy. I guess I was the only one in that marriage who felt that way. The worst part wasn't the coldness in her eyes, or the way she spoke about our life together like it was a business merger that had gone sour. The worst part was the house, our house. I didn't just buy it. I had helped build it. I remembered spending a whole summer with my father-in-law, who was a carpenter, laying the hardwood floors. Each plank held a memory, a drop of sweat, a shared joke, the smell of sawdust and varnish. I'd painted every wall, fixed every leaky faucet, and planted the oak tree in the front yard that was now taller than the roof. It wasn't just wood and nails to me, it was the heart of my world, and she wanted it. She didn't just want it. Her lawyer made it clear that she was going to get it. Her name was on the deed, too, and she argued she needed the stability. I was too broken to fight. I was a ghost in my own life, watching someone else direct the scenes. I signed the papers, packed a few boxes of my clothes and books, and walked out of that house for the last time. I didn't even look back. I couldn't bear to. I ended up in a sad little apartment across town. The walls were thin, the carpet smelled like stale cigarettes, and my upstairs neighbor seemed to practice bowling every night. I was working my 9-to-5 job in logistics, a job I never loved but paid the bills. Now it just paid for my lonely apartment and microwave dinners. I lost weight. I stopped talking to my friends. I was drowning, and I couldn't even find the energy to kick my way to the surface. Every night, I'd find myself driving. I didn't have a destination. My car would just sort of drift, and it always ended up in the same place, my old neighborhood. I'd park down the street, hidden in the shadows, and just stare at my house. Her car would be in the driveway. The lights would be on in the living room where we used to watch movies. It was like torturing myself, picking at a wound to make sure it was still there. One night, as I was sitting there in my car, feeling that familiar mix of sadness and hollow anger, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The lot next to my old house, the one that had been empty for as long as I could remember, had a sign on it. A big wooden for sale sign. It was a scrubby piece of land, overgrown with weeds, and a few sad-looking trees. Nobody had ever wanted it. But seeing that sign, a weird idea sparked in my head. It wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a healthy idea. It was a bitter, angry, petty little idea, and it was the first thing that had made me feel anything other than numb in months. What if I bought it? What if I became her neighbor? The thought was absurd. I had just enough money from the divorce settlement for a down payment. But what would I do with it? I couldn't afford to build a house. Then the idea grew. It twisted and morphed in my mind. Fed by months of silent rage, I wouldn't build a house. I would do something else. Something loud. Something disruptive. Something that would shatter the perfect, quiet, suburban peace she had stolen from me. The next day, I called the number on the sign. Getting the loan was a nightmare. I had to cash in what little retirement I had. I had to beg. I had to sell my decent car for an old pickup truck. But I did it. I closed on that ugly, forgotten piece of land. The day the papers were signed, I stood on my patch of dirt and weeds, looking over the fence at the pristine green lawn of my old backyard. I could see the kitchen window. I imagined her in there, drinking her morning coffee, completely unaware that her past had just moved in next door. My plan was simple, and in my mind, brilliant. I was going to turn my lot into a food truck park. I spent the next 2 months working like a man possessed. I cleared the land myself with a rented bobcat. I laid down gravel. I ran electrical lines and plumbing, learning from YouTube videos and nearly electrocuting myself twice. I was covered in dirt and grease from sunup to sundown. But for the first time since the divorce, I had a purpose. Every shovelful of dirt, every hammered nail was a tiny piece of revenge. I imagined the smell of grilled onions wafting into her perfect living room. I pictured the sound of generators and happy crowds drowning out her quiet evenings. I started reaching out to food truck owners. It wasn't easy at first. They saw a dusty lot and a desperate man. But I found a few who were willing to take a chance. There was Maria, a grandmother with a legendary taco recipe. There was Sal, a retired firefighter, who made the best, messiest barbecue ribs I'd ever tasted. And there was a young couple, Ben and Chloe, with a gourmet coffee and pastry truck. The day we opened was terrifying. I'd sunk everything I had into this. If it failed, I would be utterly ruined. We strung up some cheap fairy lights, set up a few picnic tables, and turned on a speaker playing some classic rock. For the first hour, it was just us. I stood there with Sal, the smell of his smoker filling the air, my heart sinking with every car that drove past without stopping. Then one car pulled in, then another. By 7 p.m., the place was packed. Families, couples, teenagers, all laughing, eating and enjoying the warm evening. The sound of it was music. The smell of tacos and barbecue and coffee was intoxicating. I looked over the fence at my old house. All the lights were on. I could see the curtains twitching. A small bitter smile touched my lips. It was working. The first complaint came the next day. A noise complaint, filed with the city. I knew it was her. I had all my permits in order, so they couldn't do anything. The week after that, it was a complaint about the trash. I just bought more trash cans, and made sure the place was spotless at the end of every night. The park, which I'd named the lot, became a local sensation. We were the cool new spot. People loved the casual vibe, the variety of food. I was making money. More than that, I was building something. Maria and Sal and the others weren't just my tenants. They were my friends, my family. We'd sit around a table after closing, sharing a meal, talking about our lives. I was happy, genuinely, truly happy. I was so busy building my new life, that I almost forgot about the reason I'd started it all. Almost. Clara's war against me escalated. She called the health department, claiming she saw a rat. The inspector came, found nothing, and gave my park a glowing review, which I proudly framed and hung on the concession stand. She started parking her car in a way that partially blocked the entrance to my lot. I just put up orange cones and guided people around it. It was all petty stuff, annoying, but manageable. But then things started to get strange. I started noticing things about her. She never left the house. I mean never. Groceries were delivered. Packages were left on the porch. The only time the front door opened was to let her dog out into the backyard. She had blackout curtains installed on all the windows, even the ones that didn't face my lot. She put up security cameras, not one or two, but at least a dozen, pointing in every direction. This wasn't the behavior of a woman who was just annoyed by her neighbor. This was the behavior of someone who was scared. My petty revenge suddenly felt different. I wasn't just annoying her, I was cornering something. But what? One night, after we closed up, I was doing my final cleanup when I saw her. She was in her backyard, standing by the fence, shrouded in the shadows from my security lights. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I could feel her staring at my empty, quiet lot. There was a stillness about her, a tension that traveled across the yard, and pricked at my skin. I called out her name. She flinched like a startled deer and scurried back inside without a word. The next week, the real trouble started. One of my trucks, Ben and Chloe's coffee truck, had its tires slashed overnight. Then, a few days later, someone cut the main water line to my lot, flooding the gravel pit, and forcing us to close for 2 days for repairs. I was furious. I assumed it was Clara, that she had finally snapped and crossed a line from petty complaints to actual vandalism. I installed my own high-definition cameras, the kind that could see in the dark, and I pointed one directly at the fence line between our properties. I was going to catch her, but what I caught on camera wasn't Clara. A few nights later, the motion sensor on my phone buzzed. I pulled up the live feed. A man dressed in dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low was creeping along the fence on my side. He wasn't doing anything, just watching her house. He stood there for almost 10 minutes, a dark statue in the grainy night vision footage, before melting back into the shadows of the street. My blood ran cold. Who was that? It wasn't anyone from the neighborhood. I rewatched the footage over and over. He wasn't looking at my park. He was looking at her house, the same way I used to, but with a different kind of energy, a predatory energy. Suddenly all of it started to click into place, but the picture it was forming was terrifying. Her paranoia, the blackout curtains, the fact she never left, the vandalism against my park. What if it wasn't her? What if it was this guy? What if he was trying to create problems for me, to get my park shut down? But why? The only reason would be because my park, my loud, bright, popular park, was the opposite of what he wanted. It brought people, it brought light, it brought attention to this quiet little corner of the suburbs. It was a giant spotlight shining right next to the house he was watching. He wanted the darkness back. He wanted the quiet. He wanted her to be isolated. My revenge project had accidentally become her shield. I didn't know what to do. Call the police. Tell them a guy in a hat was looking at a house. They'd laugh at me. Go talk to Clara. After everything, the pride, the anger, it was all still there, but it was being overshadowed by a growing sense of dread. Whatever was going on, it was bigger than our divorce. The decision was made for me a few nights later. We had a huge crowd. A local band was playing an acoustic set. The air was full of laughter and music. I was behind the small counter I'd built, selling sodas, when I saw him again. He wasn't hiding in the shadows this time. He was sitting at one of the far picnic tables, nursing a cup of coffee he must have bought from Ben. He was just watching. Not the band, not the crowd. He was watching her house. His eyes were fixed on the upstairs windows, his expression completely blank. He looked normal. A man in his late 40s maybe, a little paunchy, but there was an intensity in his gaze that made the hair on my arm stand up. I had to do something. I walked over to Sal, who was wiping down his smoker. Sal is a big guy, looks like he could stop a truck with his bare hands, but he has the kindest heart of anyone I know. Sal, I said, my voice low, see that guy over there, in the blue jacket? Sal glanced over, his eyes sharp. Yeah. What about him? He's been here before. I think he's trouble. Can you just keep an eye on him? Sal just nodded, his expression serious. Got it, boss. The band finished their set. The crowd started to thin out. I watched the man. He didn't move. He just sat there waiting. As the last of the customers left, and my food truck owners started to pack up, the man finally stood up. He threw his coffee cup in the trash, and started walking, not towards the street, but towards the fence, towards her house. My heart hammered against my ribs. Sal saw it too. He put down his cleaning rag, and started walking towards me. The man reached the fence, a simple chain-link fence I'd never bothered to replace. With a surprising agility, he hopped over it into her backyard, and then he started walking towards her back door. Every instinct in me screamed. This was it. This was what she was afraid of. Sal, call 911. Now, I said, my voice tight. Tell them there's a break-in happening at the house next door. I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a big metal fire extinguisher from the side of my stand. I vaulted over my own counter and ran. I jumped the same fence he did, landing silently on the soft grass of the lawn I used to mow. The back door had a glass panel. I saw him through it. He wasn't breaking in. He had a key. He unlocked the door and slipped inside, closing it softly behind him. The whole world went silent. The distant sounds of traffic faded away. All I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I crept up to the window next to the door. The blackout curtains weren't fully drawn. There was a small gap. I peered through it. I could see into the kitchen. The man was standing there, his back to me, and Clara was there, facing him. She was pale, trembling, but she was standing her ground. What are you doing here, Frank? She said, her voice shaking but firm. I told you I was done. You don't get to be done, Clara, the man Frank said. His voice was calm, conversational, and that made it 1,000 times more terrifying. You know what you saw, you know what you have, the files. Our old boss is not a patient man. He wants them back. He sent me to be persuasive. I don't have them, she said. I destroyed them. He took a step closer to her. I don't believe you. You always were a pack rat. Always had an insurance policy. Now, you've got this circus next door. He gestured vaguely towards my lot, drawing all sorts of attention, making things difficult. We need to end this, tonight. Just give me the drive, and I'll walk away. You'll never see me or hear from me again. My mind was racing. Files. A boss. This was way out of my league. This was something from a movie. Clara wasn't just a woman who had left her husband. She was a woman on the run. The house, the quiet life she had fought for, it wasn't for stability. It was a hiding place, and I had, with my noisy, happy food truck park, accidentally lit it up for all her demons to see. I saw Frank take another step towards her. He was reaching into his jacket. I didn't think. I just acted. I raised the fire extinguisher and smashed it against the glass panel of the door. The sound was like an explosion. Glass shattered everywhere. Frank spun around, his eyes wide with shock. Clara screamed. I didn't give him a chance to recover. I kicked open the rest of the door, charged into the kitchen, and sprayed the fire extinguisher directly into his face. A huge cloud of white powder filled the room. He choked and staggered back, blinded and disoriented. That's when I heard sirens in the distance. Sal had come through. Frank was swinging blindly, trying to get the powder out of his eyes. I dropped the extinguisher and tackled him, driving him into the kitchen table. We went down in a heap of splintered wood and choking dust. He was stronger than he looked. He grunted and pushed me off, scrambling to his feet. He lunged for the back door, the one I had just broken, but he didn't get far. Standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the lights from my park, was Sal, and in his hands, he was holding the biggest, meanest-looking meat cleaver from his barbecue truck. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, looking like a gatekeeper to hell. Frank froze. He looked from Sal back to me, and then at Clara, who was huddled in the corner, holding a phone. He knew it was over. He slowly raised his hands, just as the first police car screeched to a halt in front of the house. The aftermath was a blur of flashing lights, police officers, and questions. They took Frank away in handcuffs. Paramedics checked on me and Clara. We sat on the back steps of our old house, wrapped in emergency blankets, the air still thick with the chemical smell of the fire extinguisher. The story finally came out. Clara had been an executive assistant at a high-level financial firm. Her boss was laundering money for some very dangerous people. She stumbled upon the evidence, copied the files onto a thumb drive as leverage, and ran. She thought a quiet divorce and a move to a sleepy suburban house would make her disappear. She took the house from me, not out of spite, but out of fear. It was her fortress. I didn't know what else to do, she whispered, staring at the gravel of my lot. I just wanted to be invisible. Then you opened a carnival next door. I looked at my park. The fairy lights were still twinkling. Maria and Ben and Chloe were standing at the fence, their faces etched with worry. My loud, chaotic, beautiful revenge project. I guess I'm not very good at being subtle, I said. A small sad laugh escaped my lips. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. The coldness was gone. In its place was a deep bone-weary exhaustion. And something else too. Gratitude. You saved my life tonight, she said softly. You know, I said, looking at the broken door and the mess in the kitchen. All I wanted to do was ruin your peace and quiet. Turns out, it was the best thing I could have done. The irony was so thick, I could taste it. My quest for revenge had saved the person I was trying to hurt. My anger had built a community. My bitterness had led me to a new life, a better life. Clara had to testify. The man Frank and his boss and their whole operation were taken down by the feds, all because of the little thumb drive she'd hidden inside the hollowed-out leg of our old dining room table. A few months later, a for sale sign went up in front of the house. A real one this time. Clara called me. She was moving away, starting over for real. A new name, a new city, a truly fresh start. I'm sorry, she said over the phone, for everything, for how I left, for not telling you the truth. We were both just trying to survive. Clara, I told her, and I meant it. I get it now. We said our goodbyes. There was no lingering love, no thought of getting back together. Too much had happened. We were different people now, but the anger inside me was gone, replaced by a strange sense of peace. I ended up buying the house. I got a good deal on it. I used the profits from the park, which was more successful than ever. The first thing I did was tear down the fence between the two properties. I expanded the park, adding a grassy area for kids to play on, and a small stage for the bands. The house is my home again, but it's different now. It's not a shrine to a past I lost. It's just a house. My real home is next door, under the fairy lights, surrounded by the smell of good food and the sound of happy people. It's the place I built out of spite, the community I created by accident, the life I found when I thought everything was over. Sometimes, when I'm closing up for the night, I stand on the lawn and look at it all, and I think about how strange life is. You can lose everything you thought you ever wanted, only to find something you never knew you needed. My revenge wasn't just on her. In a way, it was revenge on the sad, broken man I had become. And I had won. Thank you for listening to my story. It's crazy how life can turn out, isn't it? If you've ever had a moment that changed everything, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, Please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. It really helps us out. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.